Hello again, and welcome to Heroes and Droids, your guide to movies and TV shows about superheroes, Disney, sci-fi, and action. From Marvel to DC, from Star Wars to Star Trek, from James Bond to the Fast and Furious, we will review theatrical films and streaming delights you care about most. Tonight, we're reviewing WandaVision, Episode 5. On a very special episode is the title, and that's an accurate title. That is an accurate title. Oh man, I can't wait to talk about this. I am your host, Doc Rott, and joining me tonight is Christopher Slattery. You call him the Slattman. How you doing, sir?
Oh, good. I hope I have the best timing in the world, like our girl Agnes does.
Yes. But just, yeah. I want to say
over here.
I know I want to say so much, but I don't know what to say. Also joining us is podcasting rockstar and international cosplay queen Vanessa Thompson. Vanessa, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Excited to be back. Excited to talk about this particular crazy episode of WandaVision.
Yes.
Very different, unique in as far as how the show's going.
It's in a special place, and I think it's really interesting. Also joining us is award-winning filmmaker Christopher G. Moore. How you doing, sir?
WandaVision, WandaVision.
I'm doing good. It's in the soundtrack.
Yes.
All of them.
Specifically your version.
I'm doing the cover song for the new soundtrack we're releasing.
Oh my God.
Chris covers the classics.
Yes, you can even sing to my TikTok version at some point.
There you go. All right. What we're going to do is we're going to give our initial thoughts about the episode. Then we're going to dive in. Spoilers. You know, we're doing this a little behind schedule as far as, we're not right on as it gets released. So if, by the time you're watching this, we are presuming you have watched the episode. So we're diving in spoilers as soon as I drop the card. We're talking spoilers. And then we'll wrap things up with our favorite thoughts and our final thoughts, our favorite scene, and our score 1 to 5. So this is going to be interesting. There's some shit go down with this episode. All right, let's talk about it. It's February. It came out February 5th, 2021, episode 5 on a very special episode. The usual cast and crew with a couple of extras. There might be a face down there at the bottom that you recognize. Evan Peters has appeared. Who is he playing? That's the big takeaway. Wanda addresses Vision's worries when he grows suspicious of the neighbor's behavior. Strange behavior. And there's a lot going on here, guys. There's a lot going on. And this is the 80s episode. We're full 80s. With, like you said, WandaVision, a great intro we've been getting all along, and it does not disappoint here. Wow. I don't even know where we start here. So I guess we should just dive into our first impressions with the Slattman going first. Sir.
So I feel very strange about this episode.
Strange.
It's
Doctor Strange? No.
I mean, you can read into the little, like the you can read into it if you want.
It's up to you.
I don't know. Like, this both keeps the norm that we got for the first couple episodes, but breaks the norm like in magnificent ways. I think this episode will be looked back as a great episode for the story, but not a great episode. Period.
I feel you. I really do.
And I think that about sums up my first impressions. I have a lot I want to go into, but if I had to put it in like a sentence, that's what I would put it. Like there's so much to really like talk about. There's so much to really theorize about. There's so much to break down, but ultimately, like it didn't feel as good to watch as the first 3 or 4 episodes did.
Right.
But I feel like there's so much important stuff that happens that you can't sit there and say, well, this is the worst episode in the season, so you got to skip it. No, it's an incredibly important episode.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It felt like it was missing something.
Yeah, we're definitely in the middle of the story, so we're really heavy with exposition and kind of throwing in explanation that kind of throws things off.
Mhm.
But I've got something to add to that when it gets to be my turn. So, yes.
One last thing, the actors though, everybody in this show, every actor and actress, they're doing an amazing job. Every single one of them.
Amazing.
Are like I would sit there to say that there's like 5 to 6 leads right now,
Mm.
and every single one of them is just like great, awesome. And I really hope that especially our two big leads, I hope both of them get praise after this series is done,
Yeah, they deserve some notice.
because they really handled the change in tone that this episode required so well.
Yeah,
Mhm.
throughout the episode as well.
Mhm.
All right, Vanessa, you're up next. What is your first impression of episode 5?
I really enjoyed this episode. It reminded me, with what Chris was saying, it reminds me of the penultimate episode of The Mandalorian from season 2. You know, you kind of feel like, okay, this doesn't have the same momentum as everything else does, but for a reason. It's telling you things, it's explaining things to you that's going to just take you to another place in the story. And this one, so, you know, we talked to, I told y'all, like, I grew up on Nick at Night. I loved Dick Van Dyke Show. I love Mary Tyler Moore, Bewitched, Brady Bunch, all of those shows. But this hit me in the feels. This 80s sentiment, the Full House feel, the clothing, just, you know, you come into the 80s and then you really start getting to me. You know, the 80s and early 90s really mean something special to me and were very formative for me. So that this particular episode hits me in a really nice place, but it is a lot as compared to the previous ones, which were more lighthearted. We didn't know really what was going on. Things weren't falling apart the way they are now. You have more of that in this episode, so it feels a little bit more it's a little bit more of a sad kind of episode. I think you don't feel as happy the whole time, and it's the special episode, so it discusses special topics, life and death and things like that.
A lot of
yeah, right. And I like how they tied that in too. It's so indicative of that time. So yeah, I really, before we go into spoilers, I enjoyed this one a lot, and I liked God, too much spoilers. I like what they did with this episode a lot, and how different it is compared to the ones that have led up to it.
Perfect. All right, Christopher G. Moore, what was your first impression?
You know, I can understand people's thinking that even though this isn't probably the strongest episode of this series, it's still just as important. And I think, you know, people gave, there's some people that gave like the first few episodes crap because they wanted something more in the Marvel canon of like action type stuff, which I can understand, but this show is so brilliant. I mean, I haven't really had a show like this in a while that, you know, whether you have like Lost or any of those type of shows that has this sort of underlying mystery to what things are happening. I go deep dive on YouTube after these episodes.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys do that.
79 spoiler or Easter eggs.
Yeah. All the Easter eggs and like, maybe this person is Mephisto and like, what does this mean? And like, I've never been, I don't, there's few shows that do this anymore because a lot of times shows nowadays really don't have an element of mystery to them. They really don't take the time to sort of like, you know, it's mostly like, you know, it's nothing against like shows that have like your normal weekly, this happens. They're almost individual, but because there's this, mystery that they're slowly peeling the layers on, and you don't know like, oh, is Marvel following the comics perfectly, or are they just taking from this or that, or maybe they're going in a totally different direction. So like so many different things to where it's like, and then at the same time, not only are they sort of like paying, you know, sort of like pulling stuff from the comics and telling this story, but they're also pulling stuff from the history of sitcoms and the history of television, and the level of detail to that, whether it's the way the characters act, which I really feel like, yeah, like these actors in this show deserve so much love for their roles, because, you know, just how they're you know, how they're able to deliver these lines like the sitcoms do. And then you have production design that takes all these cool things from all these different shows. There's even like a little Kiss the Cook sign, which is, you know, because
I saw that too.
Yeah, which I think it's Family Ties, I think. But, you know, Family Ties and Growing Pains that pay a lot of, and I don't know about you guys, but there's like one moment that made me laugh out loud. And that's when we go to the opening intro sequence for this episode, and they show Baby Vision.
Oh my God.
I
laughed so hard. I laughed so hard.
That's the Family Ties intro, right? Where they're doing all those pictures.
Yeah, because I wasn't expecting it, because he was like, because, you know, Vision didn't have a childhood, so when they're showing, I was like, he's definitely not as cute as Grogu. Let me just give you that much. He's kind of creepy.
Yeah,
creepy.
Nice.
But I laughed so hard. But even when you watch those things, it's one of the. This is one of those shows where you go back and you look at all the little details. There's underlying details to the details. You know, like the well, without giving it too spoilery, two of the characters kind of grow in age.
No, you can go ahead and spoil that.
Okay, the two kids grow in age. In that opening intro, the birthday cake has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on it.
Yes.
Things like that you don't think about, but they played it into that. So I hate seeing some people that have like a little bit of hate for like some of it. I kind of like this episode because finally we get sort of a mixture of the real world and what's happening in this world. And also, if you pay attention, the moment that she walks out of the world, the TVs go to "Please stand by." It's only broadcasting when she's inside that bubble. So there's like so many things. If you go back and you're like, "Oh my God, I pay attention to that." Oh, there's a hexagon there. It's like I feel like back in the J.J. Abrams realm of Lost, where you're like, "Oh, there's a website about this," you know, airplane company, or, you know, all these underlying mysteries. I just want to find out more, you know. So I love this show so much, and even if this isn't the strongest episode, it's still very important, and there's so many details to where the more I delve into it, the more I like it even more. So, you know, I have no hate for this episode, because there's so many cool stuff in it. I don't know, I could just talk a million years about this show, because I think it does that great balance and of telling a story, and it's so much details into this. It's like it hurts my brain as a filmmaker and as a writer. It's like, oh my God, how did they think about all these different things? You know. So yeah, I love the episode.
Oh, writer's room is what it's called.
Oh yeah. So like I'm always excited. Like,
collaboration.
You know, yeah, I mean, oh God, I love it. I love it. Love it so much. And by the way, what's her name? Catherine Hahn.
Oh yeah,
I love her so much.
Yes.
That part where she's rocking the babies while she's got like the workout outfit on. Like,
yes.
Ralph says I'm a tiger in bed.
Oh
my God, she cracks me up.
Oh man. Well, there's a lot going on. Okay, so I had a very mixed reaction on when I first watched this, much like Slattman. I was kind of like, well, I still love it, but I didn't really get that wow bang sensation. Even with the surprise ending that you're definitely going to talk about, I still didn't have that, you know, because I don't know, it just didn't wow me as much as the past 4 episodes. However, watching it a second time, it just amplified everything 100-fold. It really, it's kind of like Vanessa, you said it the best, probably like the next to last episode for Mandalorian season 2 had the same reaction, where at first it was like, that was exposition heavy, but then at the same time you watch it again, it's like, well, there's actually a lot going on underneath that. It's really fascinating and terribly interesting. And this is too. There's, you know, the primary thing that we get are, are the kids, right? Billy and Tommy. And we get to see them grow fast, which kind of gives a little bit more leverage to the decade thing. And the time isn't an issue. So it starts feeling, a little bit more comprehensive in that respect. You start kind of locking in on the obscure logic that this little weird world has. And it's just so much. It's so much. It's so interesting to see them go from, newborns to 5-year-olds to 10-year-olds, and then almost going a step further, and Wanda having to step in and stop it. And that was probably the most poignant scene in there. And there's a lot of really great character interaction scenes in here. There's a discussion / confrontation between Wanda and Vision that is really exciting and interesting, and it's portrayed with a level of danger, but yet it still has that 80s, sitcom hand to it, right? There's a really interesting visual balance to what they were doing there. And you really get the feel that, there's so many subtle things going on that it supports what the story, what, the characters, especially Darcy and Jimmy Woo and Monica are trying to kind of bring together. We're following that and we're feeling it, but yet there's something in there that says there's something else. There's something else underlying this that we haven't caught on yet, or maybe we have, that is, maybe just a hint beyond what Wanda is doing, right? So I ended up loving this episode and can't wait to dive into full discussions. So why don't we just stop yabbering and get into those full discussions? Where do we start? Do we start with? Because we got to talk about the kids. We got to talk about Vision and his talking with Norm. That's a very important scene. And then of course the Sparky, which Sparky is a character in the comics, the dog, and a very similar thing happens with that. And Vision ends up, spoilers for the comics, creating a Vision Sparky dog that becomes part of the family. So it's interesting that they wove that in. It's different, but yet it's still there. And then of course we've got the surprise guest at the end, and then everything and whatever the heck is happening with Agnes, which is a big change in that character as far as being included into whatever Wanda is doing, right?
Well, let's start with Agnes.
Let's do it. I think I'll just think that way.
One of the little things that I liked about this is that one of the tropes that I remember about watching a lot of the 80s shows is that a lot of people have impeccable timing,
Mm-hmm.
just in general. Just like you go back and watch those shows and like people will like come in through the door at just the right time, or will like something will happen and someone's included just when they need to be, and there's like no real explanation for it. And I love how Agnes has that, and it's like, oh, and the excuse was always something silly. And in this one it's like, oh, I just saw through the window that you got a puppy, here's this. And I don't know, I really loved
I
that.
heard the baby's crying. I thought I'd stop by and help.
But so I loved that attention to detail, and also a way to bring it into the world, and that especially the world that Wanda has created.
Sparky's in the background.
He's gonna end up like Sparky. Shut up.
But the good, wow.
This podcast in the dark.
The scene that really stood out to me is when she was like, what's my line? Like, do we need to roll this back?
Yes. Wasn't that great?
Creepy, yeah.
And Vision's reaction to it was so wonderful.
Yeah.
Wanda,
I know that we all had theories that maybe she was her own agent in Wanda's world without being controlled, but it makes it seem like she's kind of more like a scapegoat for Wanda and less of a and less of just like a random person in town.
Mhm.
She does feel. I would almost say she's a partner.
And
Right.
it kind of leads to the theory that Agnes represents like either I think Agnes is supposed to represent the good side of Wanda and Wanda herself is supposed to represent the evil side. I don't know. That's one I've seen on Reddit.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'm still going with the Agatha Harkness thing because there's a brooch that kind of supports that. That's in this
Mhm.
particular episode. What's really interesting is that the Agnes character is being brought into the secrets, right? Wanda is getting a little more comfortable around her and showing her powers off, and Vision's uncomfortable with that still, which is raising the stakes and the conflict, right? And it's a really interesting way of doing that with this character. But her reactions make you feel like she's onto it. I do. I feel like she's onto it. She knows what's going on.
In some way,
Yeah.
right?
I mean,
And I guess
yeah.
some the other neighbor too. I can't remember his name. He
Herb?
does too. Herb, yeah, he
Yeah.
does too, right? So some people seem to be a little bit more compliant, like knowingly compliant, I think.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
with that, let's talk about Norm, right? Christopher G. Moore, because
Ooh.
the Vision does the little action thing after this really wonderful email bit. But let's just say how wonderful that was.
Brought back
Because
memories of my
I
64-bit computer.
Let me get the mail opener.
I lived through that trying to teach my dad. Anyway, just the whole thing when Norm gets woke, if you will, and expresses that it hurts and everything, and it's just which we've already kind of heard with Monica, but
Mhm.
not in. I don't think Monica's story had as much impact in that respect as Norm's did right here.
Well, Monica's a soldier, right?
Right.
So she's got to be tougher to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of it might have to do with how much you're fighting back, because I think they mentioned that he has like a sick dad or something, or
He was trying to call his sister.
yeah, it's all his sisters or something. So I think there's more fight back with that. Also, if you notice when he's like, he just says she is controlling me.
She does that.
She doesn't say Wanda is controlling me.
That's right.
So I'm thinking that, and also one thing that I saw that actually, if you think about it, the only time that Wanda is mind controlling people, their eyes turn red. Do you see anybody in this town whose eyes turn red?
Well, you
That are being
can't really.
controlled.
That's interesting. You're
Yeah.
right. In the
So
movies,
maybe she's not.
I mean,
the one
unless her
that's-
powers have gotten stronger.
Well,
even
yeah,
that-
but when she goes out and she controls all the people with the guns, their eyes turn red. Anytime
I
you've
missed
seen-
that.
anytime you see her
Yeah, I
in
did
the
see that.
movies where she controls people, their eyes turn red.
But is that because it's outside of her bubble, like not on
well,
TV?
you could argue that.
Well, that's true too.
don't
That's
know.
true too. But I think
That's a good point. Though.
I think
They
when you
edited it
think
out.
She.
Yeah, right.
Well,
That's
but when he says
interesting.
she, you think he would say Wanda. Especially
Does
when
he
he's
know
talking
her
to
name?
Vision.
Does he?
No,
Does
maybe
he
not.
know who Vision is? Does he know who Wanda is? Would he?
We don't.
He didn't
know.
like. He didn't like immediately recognize. Well, he was in his human form, but
Let's put it this way: what Christopher's suggesting is Wanda's own actions, her own discussion when she's talking to Vision. She goes like, "Do you think I control an entire town? I could, make sure they go to the dentist on time and all that. You
Yeah.
think that's what I'm doing."
I don't know how this started or something like that.
Right.
She evidently she somehow, maybe it's one of those things to where like if Mephisto like becomes a part of this, he usually makes deals with people, kind of like the devil. It's like I'll help you bring back Vision, or that kind of thing. So I mean, that's the kind of questions we're trying to find out here. Is to what level? Who's controlling what? For all we know, maybe Dottie is Mephisto because we really haven't. She was never put on that board.
Well, as far as theories go, I saw a video that showed an interview of Elizabeth Olsen many years ago, like prior, I think, to this coming about, talking about wouldn't it be really cool if they were somehow mind controlling me, Wanda, made me think I had 2 kids, then took them away, what would she do in that? And so, like, are they building up to something like that to unleash her?
Well, that's the thing. I think that plays. I think is it the House of M that's dealing with that. I mean,
yeah.
But and I think that's also the thing, because I also think something nefarious is going on with this director Hayward guy. I almost feel like he might be Mephisto, or maybe he's working with Mephisto. I feel like he's going out of his way to throw shade onto Wanda. I think he knows that if they try to shoot some kind of missile at her, like, that's going to affect her. Yeah. I think he's just trying to irritate her. And I think, yeah, well, I know. And I think if they somehow her children are taking or whatever, I think Mephisto is probably wanting the whole multiverse thing to happen, which will definitely tie into Doctor Strange. So yeah, I mean,
that's Spider-Man.
There's like so many. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's the thing that we're probably building to, is at what point is we're going to have like a little bit of a split between Vision and Wanda. What's going to happen to Wanda? Is she going to go full villain? Is she going to go full crazy? And how are they going to be able to deal with that?
Well, she's already seen Vision in his like dead form.
Yeah.
Right. So, building on that too.
Also, if you go into Director Hayward's office, his diplomas are in a hexagon
shape. Yeah.
What? I didn't know.
Also, the curtains in their living room is like an M, like House of M.
Oh, was it? Not spoilers. Easter eggs.
Let me point something out though. I love how each decade they sort of play into the tropes of television. Mm-hmm. And in the sitcom universe, they, like you mentioned that previously, Vanessa, a very special episode, which are always those special episodes of sitcoms, which are mainly known for comedy. Sort of like the Saved by the Bell, where Jesse gets all hocked up on caffeine pills.
I'm so excited.
Or somebody gets in trouble with drugs, or like the Good Times where the father died, and the things like that. You have those special episodes, and you have this. You also have episodes where the next season the kids are like a whole lot older. Mm-hmm. They were. You also have like a new character shows up, or they replace it, kind of like the Will Smith thing where they replaced Vivian with a different actress.
Yeah.
Sort of like, Pietro, who was got the leather jacket like Jesse from Good.
She recast her brother
from Full House.
That was great, wasn't it?
Yeah, Uncle Jesse look. Also, I love that.
Also, the technology during those eras too. When the kids morph. That morphic technology was first used in Willow in 1988. So I love that they're actually using the same type of morphing technology that they would use during that year. So things like that, which I haven't seen anybody talk about, by the way. So maybe you're the ones news.
You did it first.
But yeah, I love. That's what I love about how they integrate that kind of stuff. More than just the production design, but when it comes to characters or even things they say. Because now I pay attention to everything they say, because there's a part where, what's her name in the S.w.o.r.d? She talks about Director Hayward.
Monica.
He's like, yeah, he's a real charmer. Charmer?
What's that mean? Was that Monica or was that Darcy?
Darcy. He says he's a real charmer. So now
he says that to Darcy. Oh yeah.
Darcy says that about him. When he walks off, it's like he's a real charmer. So now it's like every piece of dialogue, I'm like breaking apart, like trying to find out what's behind it, because there's usually meaning behind everything, especially with Catherine Hahn's character as Agnes, because there's meaning behind every line she says.
Yep. What about the dark liquor? What is that behind? I don't know. All right, so. The kids know that Wanda has revived Vision. And they say this in front of Agnes, who goes, "You can do that?" And then they want him to do the Sparky, but she won't. That feels incredibly important to this series. Just that segment, that tiny little segment.
Yeah.
What?
Well, they also, she has no control over them, which they mentioned previously.
Yeah, she can't use her powers on them.
And even Agnes makes a joke about that. You kids, you can't control them.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. She does do that.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's meaning behind everything. And so when she can't make them go to sleep by using her magic, that they don't have this haze like everybody else in that bubble of a world.
What does Agnes bring over? A house.
Oh, a doghouse.
Oh, the doghouse. Yeah.
It's not a house of M, it's a house of dog, but it is a house.
Dog.
All right.
Aw, you're stretching.
First it's the curtains. Now it's the doghouse.
Not wrong. It is a house. Let's talk about this. We're going along, so let's talk about the cameo, the special guest. I guess our new cast member, if some other little leaked things are to be maybe they're right. We have another discussion. The kids ask about a brother, right? And she goes, "Yeah, I had a brother." And
no, she says, "I have." Not had.
She says, "I have."
I have a brother.
Yeah,
nice.
she doesn't tell them.
Ooh, I didn't catch that. And then, at a very critical point in the conversation, the doorbell rings, and she goes, "I didn't do that," and which is interesting response, right? And then the door opens, and we get the back of the head. Okay, so what I loved about the back of the head, it's clearly Quicksilver, right? But it looks like the MCU Quicksilver from the back, right?
Because of the haircut.
Because of the haircut and the way it's, and also kind of how they position the character and how they, display it. It felt like it could be either way. I was like, did they pull one over us? Are we going to get the other one? Right? What's going to happen here? And of course it isn't. It's Evan Peters, and yeah, and it's the whole like they recast Pietro, but she recognizes him, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Or does she?
I think she does, right? Before he says much, she's like, "Pietro?" And he's like, something, my brother, sister, something catchy,
yeah.
He says.
Yeah, before he
something
says,
Uncle Jesse like.
And who's the popsicle?
Which, if you read into that, he knows
dead?
Vision's dead. Secondly, the first time we see him in the X-Men universe, he's eating a popsicle.
Oh, fun. I love that. I just love that. I love that they brought Evan Peters in as Quicksilver. I love that he was the 80s X-Men Quicksilver. I love all the things that is potentially bringing into this story. It's so much fun. And it's honestly what we've been waiting our entire lives for.
It is, right?
It's for these to cross over and everybody be together and do all the cool shit they did in the comics. Like that, I think it's so cool, and I really can't wait to see what's going to happen in the next episode, because we haven't gotten anything with him, his image in it, right? Because they didn't want to spoil anything. So is he going to be in the next one? Like, what's going to happen? And I love that they're like, she recast her brother, and she's like, they recast my brother. So nobody knows what's really going on, who's controlling everything. And
but
really,
I don't think Wanda did this.
No, I don't think she did it either. I'm interested to see Vision's reaction too, like how he's going to react to him. What's going to happen?
Well,
I really don't think it was her.
Right? He doesn't remember. Did he ever actually meet Quicksilver?
I feel like they had I haven't seen Age
I guess
of
they
Ultron
did.
in forever.
He had to have, right? In Age of Ultron, he had to have.
Before he died, he had to have known about Quicksilver at the very least. But he literally says that I don't remember anything before coming here.
That's
so
true.
it doesn't
That's
matter.
True. That's true, yeah.
And there's so much going in there, because in the comics he has the brain of Simon Williamson, Wonder Man, which is a whole convoluted mess. But something like that is suspect here. People are theorizing about that. All kinds of interesting things that.
Oh, we didn't even talk about the scene where it shows Wanda going into the sword.
Right. We skipped over that. We skipped over the whole.
We skipped over a lot.
Yeah, that was actually a pretty hefty scene. It was really important too because she's so different in that scene. So they send in a drone, but they use a drone from the 80s, so it doesn't have to transform. Right. That I thought that was really cool because we saw it with the rope, right, and then of course her costume, and they reveal that it's still Kevlar and stuff like that. So that's kind of cool. But when Wanda sees it and it goes dark, right, because they're getting ready to fire a missile. And then she comes out with it and throws it, and it is sparkling red, Christopher G. Moore, like you said, right? Even it is sparkling red, and she is full Scarlet Witch attire, right? Wanda from the Avengers,
Accent and all.
yeah,
Mhm.
and accent and all, but
Mhm.
it's entirely different than the Wanda that we're getting in the show, right?
I would argue it's even different than the Wanda that we got in the movies.
You might,
Outside of maybe the first half of Age of Ultron.
you're right. She's kind of leaning back into that character, isn't she? But
You have to think too, where does Hydra play in? Because we have seen Hydra commercials and Hydra imagery. So, and they created her.
Sarah, right? Lego Sarah.
Well,
Yeah.
oh, by the way, we also had the commercial for I think it's Lagos or whatever it is, which actually ties into that Avengers movie where she accidentally caused all those innocent people to die.
Right.
Each commercial is an Infinity Stone.
Mm-hmm. I've seen that before.
What?
The toaster is the Mind Stone. The Hydra Soak is the Tesseract. What was the other one? The Lagos. That's the red stone.
No, that's not power. Shit, I don't remember.
Isn't that the soul? Isn't the red one the Soul Stone, or is that the yellow one?
I'm not sure, but it's the red one or whatever, I think. But
Mine
anyway,
is yellow, I thought.
so I think
Yeah, I think it's the Soul
each one is like one of the Infinity Stones. So I'm assuming that we'll get a few more that'll tie into those different ones. Oh, we have the Time Stone with the watch. So that's the Time Stone.
And it makes sense that there would be about 2 more Decades episodes.
Yeah. So we're going to get 2 more of those.
It is reality.
Yeah.
That is reality.
And I think also we've heard that supposedly they're going to have some big. I don't think it was Pietro, but I think there's supposed to be some Luke Skywalker moment that's going to happen on this series.
Yeah,
a Magneto moment, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, you could easily say, well,
Or,
that's what I'm
Hugh
thinking.
Jack.
I'm thinking it's Magneto because
He always shows up.
Because I think in the comics, I think one of the runs Magneto is actually
for a long time.
father.
For a long time, they were believed to be
Yeah.
offspring.
So that could happen.
Well, they
Although
tied
Dr.
that in the X-Men
What if in the universe, in Wanda, in the Westfield universe, Magneto is her father, but it's not reality, and that's what clues her into we're not.
Oh my god!
Well, I think
my mind.
Well, I think the multiverse is. I think the multiverse may open up by the end of this, just based on how they're messing with Wanda. So I'm thinking that's what's going to open up the ability to bring more of the X-Men and other universes into this. I mean, some people even said that because of J. Jonah Jameson, because he shows up in the ending of the Spider-Man movie, that's because the multiverse has already been open. That's the reason. So I don't know what to believe anymore.
Because wait, that would take place after WandaVision.
Yeah, it takes that's like 8 months after the snap. So it
Right?
I know that's. But I don't know what to believe anymore because there's like a million different people thinking it. But it's great to see here, like, ooh, maybe that'll happen.
Man, what if the stinger at the end of the last episode is just Hugh Jackman just showing up?
So
you don't even need that. You just have Hugh Jackman walking up and being like,
no, you don't even have to like,
dropping the F-bomb. That's all he's
just
trying to do.
give me a scotch or give me a whiskey.
Yeah.
or Deadpool. There's a whole.
No,
Deadpool would be great.
Red is the reality stone, by the way. Red is
What's
the
that?
reality
stone.
I said that earlier.
Did you say that?
I didn't hear that.
Do we remember what happened to the Infinity Stones after
They had to put
Endgame?
them back.
They
Had to
put
put
they
him
put
back.
him back. Yeah,
Oh yeah, you're
We did
duh.
the whole thing.
Doctor or no Professor Hulk.
Yeah,
He had it all worked out.
he did.
Well, there's also a whole other thing involving Wonder Man that may
Yep.
be what
Tommy Williams,
Vision might be. So I don't know. It's like,
Mm.
there's
That's
so
what-
many different ways we could go with this show, and that's what it makes me so excited because I don't know what's going to happen.
Because
Mhm.
remember, there's a character. The reason why Jimmy Woo's there is because somebody under protection is missing.
Well, yeah, we don't know who that is
We don't know
either.
who that is. We don't know if it means
Some people
anything.
thought it was the mailman, but evidently the mailman popped up on the billboard this episode.
Mhm.
They figured out who the mailman is, so
Oh, did they?
we don't know who that mysterious person is.
Yeah, it's likely it's going to be Agnes, right?
Well, they have Agnes on the bulletin board, wouldn't they? Wouldn't
No, they
Jimmy
don't-
Woo
they
know
don't know.
who?
Yeah, that's right. That's
Wouldn't
right.
he know who
Huh.
she is? So it's got to be
I don't
somebody
know.
else.
And he hasn't like confirmed that it was Wanda he was looking for. So
But you would think that
Well,
if that
yeah,
person showed up on the show, he'd recognize them. You know?
Well,
see.
Well, this is the actual middle of the season. We have 4 more
How-
episodes to go.
There's so much
God.
story to tell, and I don't know
Yeah.
what's going to happen next. Other than just knowing we're going to see different decades of TV.
I mean, that's
Okay.
how we felt about halfway through Mandalorian, and they tied
Yeah.
that up pretty well with the
Wow,
in a
that's
bow. So
much like Mandalorian, though, at least the first season with the episodes were a little shorter. We end up talking about the episode longer than the episode. Actually, which just shows
Yeah.
you how much richness there is and how much.
Oh,
depth
yeah.
there is.
Well, that and also I want to give props. I think I don't know if the same people are doing it, but I heard that the people that wrote the music to Frozen did some of the intro songs. I don't know if they're doing it all, but if you listen to the lyrics to this new intro song, it's like, we don't know where we're going.
Yeah. Last week and this week have been like choice for writing those intro songs.
Perfect. Yeah, and just how because you have like the painting of the coloring, which is from, I think, is it Family Ties?
I think so. I think that opening was very Oh yeah, maybe.
And even when they're running, that's from Full House. So it's God, they're doing such a great job of just perfecting like how these shows work. You know, I do love it that where Wanda has so much control over stuff when she's like, I don't want to have this argument, so she makes the credits scroll.
Yeah, I know.
Oh yeah.
She's just like, I'm not going to stop for that.
I love that.
And,
We-
and they got mad at each other. It was really interesting when they both went up.
That was what a great shot. What a great shot.
Yeah, there's so many moments in this episode. This is why when I watched it the second time, it really registered in a totally different way because I'm looking at what you're talking about, the shot with them fighting, the whole breaking of the fourth wall, if you will, when when Agnes flubs her line and she goes, "Do you want me to take it from the top?" It's and then there's just so much. There's so much going on here, and then with the kids, it's really exciting. And I'm looking forward to the next 4 episodes for sure. So we need to wrap this up. Let's wrap things up with our final thoughts, our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. I think we can all pick a favorite scene that's different. Pretty sure we probably are going to want to pick the same one, but we'll all pick. But if you're still listening, thank you for hanging out with us talking about WandaVision. We really appreciate it. If you want to help us out, 2 things you can do, really easy, really quick to do, and totally free on your part. Just hit the subscribe button down below or share with a friend. Really easy way to think. If you want to do a little bit more, you can hit the like or dislike button and leave a comment. And all that really helps, and we greatly appreciate it. But we do want to take a moment to thank our patrons over at Patreon, who without their support, we wouldn't be able to do Grissom Magazine, H&R, Decades of War, of course, Heroes and Droids, what you're watching now. Really, most weeks we are doing an episode each weekday. It's kind of insane, but there you go. Lots of reviews and takes in there. And as this year starts to pick back up, I expect a lot of really interesting discussion about all the news and stuff to be added into the mix. But let's go ahead and do this. Let's give our final thoughts, our score and favorite scene. Slattman, you are up first. Give it to us.
So by the end of the series or this season or series, if this turns out to only be one season, which I expect it to be, only one season based on the story they're telling right now. I think I will look back on this episode as being one of the most important episodes for
Nice.
the story, but one of my least one probably my probably one of my one probably the episode that I don't remember for being fun or being anything like that, but is incredibly important either way. I think part of my so I'm going to go ahead and give it a 4 out of 5. 4.25 actually.
There you go.
4.25 out of 5.
4.5. Can I hear 4.5?
Nah, my problem is my biggest problem is I wish they didn't go back and forth. And I understand why they do it, but I wish they didn't go back and forth between Wanda's world and the outside world as much, because the charm that the sitcom portion has, it doesn't really it kind of gets broken up a little bit. And that's part of what made the first 3 episodes so great, is the charm of the episodes, the going from like outside of the little moments that you had. I don't know. I kind of, I don't know. It's
Well, yeah,
it's
it feels like you don't get that full episode like we did with
Yeah.
the first one, right?
But at the same time, it kind of is representative of the story where things are really starting to fall apart as we get more clues as to what's going on. So maybe once the whole series is over and I know the full story, I'll look back at this one and I'll go, well, I got this one wrong. And I really hope that I feel that way. But I really think that this episode is still incredible compared to 99.99999% of TV out there.
Yeah, I like that.
It's still excellent. Okay, you got me up to a 4.5.
Can you hear 4.75? No.
It's still excellent. The acting is superb, and the writing is top notch, and the sound design is awesome, and the soundtrack is great, and the camera work is excellent. And I love how they go from a widescreen but full like 16 by, or I don't remember the aspect of a full TV.
I think it's 16 by 9. Yeah.
But it's like instead of having the black bars like for like a true like movie theater widescreen experience, it's like full on like fills your TV when you're in Wanda's universe. But as soon as it goes back, it's and they do this transition with the bars. It doesn't just blink and it's like there. They're doing such a great job with everything. But something about the episode, especially with not being able to spend the whole 30 minutes in the 80s and getting that full sitcom experience, I don't know, it leaves me feeling a little empty, I guess is the best way to put it.
I felt that. I felt that the first time. Watch it again. Watch it a couple
Yeah.
times.
But I don't know. I also can acknowledge that this is an incredibly important episode for many different other reasons, and it's still excellent, even if it's not as excellent as the first like 3 to 4 episodes.
Nice.
My favorite scene is actually when Wanda and Vision are talking, and the credits start going, and Vision's like, "No, we're not done here." And the tone completely changes from sitcom to very serious, very like any like backing music, like 80s style backing music, any of that sitcom-y feel that it has to it just goes away completely. And it feels like they're really having an argument. There feels like that it's so out of the ordinary, but it feels exactly like how they would be outside of Wanda's, reality, outside of Westview or Westview. I don't remember. But I loved that transition. I loved that part. Just, I loved it.
Yeah, you don't get any hints of the TV until Pietro shows up, and then you get the laugh track again, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, Vanessa, you're up next. Your final thoughts, your score and favorite scene.
I'm really enjoying this, and I'm on the kind of the opposite side of the Slattman. I'm enjoying the degradation of the series, of the shows that she's putting on, and it becoming more real, and it falling apart, and we're seeing the behind the scenes, behind the veil, if you will, of what's going on. And I really enjoy that aspect of it. I agree with everything Slattman said. This is a great show. Disney is killing it. I'm so excited for the other ones too, and I'm really glad that they ended up opening with this series. I think it's been a really great way to open up to what these Marvel series are going to be like. And I'm just going to jump right into it. I'm going to give this one a 4.75. Only because I really, like you said, it's not as fun, and that's okay. But I always lean a little bit more towards the more fun ones to give them a 5. But my favorite scene, there's so many. The one we talked about with Norm, fantastic. So heart-wrenching. And then when we talked about the kids confronting death when when Sparky dies, right? That's the special episode moment, but it is very important too in the story. But my favorite scene is the reveal of Evan Peters as Pietro, because of all the potential in him showing up, recasting the brother, being the 80s X-Men Quicksilver. It's just so many things could be happening. Who did it? Why did they do it? What is he doing there? All these questions and the potential to finally combine comic book universes, bring things together.
Yes, cinematic universes, yeah.
Yes, see these characters co-mingling. I'm so excited about that. So that there's so many great scenes, but because of the potential of it, that's my favorite scene.
Yeah, I wonder what normies are thinking. They're so confused. Christopher G. Moore, sir, your final thoughts, your score, and favorite scene.
Oh, and by the way, we didn't even talk about Monica Rambeau like pulling a Peggy Carter and shooting her pants.
Yes.
And we find out her pants are now like Kevlar.
Pants.
We
Kevlar pants.
We mentioned it briefly, but yeah, we didn't
get into it. So not only are they, shunning fashion, but they're shunning bullets as well. But yeah, I also they did like a X-ray or something of her, and she's all glowy now.
Yeah.
Nothing. They couldn't draw her blood. They couldn't do all this stuff.
So either this is a spinoff to Cocoon, or she's actually going to be becoming Photon, having powers.
Well, I thought she was Photon too, but she goes by a different name. But keep going.
Now if she lowered her eyelid and light came out, then we would have thought Cocoon.
She's not geriatric, okay?
You don't have to be geriatric to be glowy.
She goes by Spectrum now, by the way.
Yeah, but anyway, I love this. Also, I think Elizabeth Olsen is killing it. I've never been a really big fan of her as an actress normally, but her mannerisms, her physicality, I love like throughout the decades, what way she I like when she was like early on, she'd like keep her arms up and stuff. It's like, and just the physicality of it. And then we get to see a part where she goes outside the bubble. She goes back to her original outfit, and then she starts speaking with a hint of an accent again.
Mm-hmm.
So she's really killing it. Her and Paul Bettany, he's, doing a great job and sort
fantastic. And all his little like Darwin references that he makes, because he actually played Darwin. I just love that so much.
But on top of that, it talks about the evolution of the creation of mutants.
Yeah.
So there's that tie-in as well. But yeah, I love all that. I love their sort of dedicated level of intricacy and methodical nature when it comes to the creation of these shows. And contrary to what Slattman said, I'd rather it be kind of a mixture of these two as opposed to a whole episode. I hated the episode that was dedicated just to that side of the world.
Or the last one.
I think as long as you get a mixture of it, I'm more fine with that. I think I would just be even more sad if the whole TV thing went away totally, which I'm assuming probably might happen at some point.
Last couple episodes, definitely.
But I love that. I love every aspect of it, to where there's this every line of dialogue, there's meaning behind it. And at the same time, we not only do we have the mystery of how this happened, but the mystery around like who's behind this. And then we have like this director Haywood character. We don't know. I don't trust him. I wouldn't trust him to hold my coat. Something's wrong with this dude. So we're wondering like what level maybe he might be part of it, because I'm sure for somebody who's supposed to be protecting sentient weapons from people, he looks like was stealing stuff from Vision's body to create weapons, right? So there's some shady stuff going on. So yeah, this show is brilliant. I look forward to every week. I watch entirely too much stuff on YouTube, going down the rabbit hole of this.
It's easy to
show every day. I'm like, oh, it's another thing about 109 Easter eggs. And
yeah, 776 Easter eggs.
What
in 15 minutes.
What this character might mean, and this is the meaning behind this. And I found this. I even find them on TikTok. There's after every episode, there's people on TikTok. Ooh, did you see this part? And there's this spoiler here. And this might be this character. And I'm like, what? My mind's blowing. So I just turned 50, so I feel like this is helping my mind stay
nice.
Just thinking about all these things. So yeah, I love it. I think something about the episode didn't really hit on all cylinders, but I'll probably give it a 4.75 out of 5. I liked it a whole lot better than the last episode, which is the whole S.w.o.r.d side of things, which I kind of like the mixture of it, because I really love what they're doing with the TV stuff and how they're telling so much by using the production design of TV shows and how those shows are run, and also just playing into the tropes of those things as well, to sort of play out how this mystery evolves. I don't know. I love it. As for favorite scene, I probably will have to say I have the biggest love of Agnes on this show.
Yeah.
And anytime that she shows up, I am happy as little baby Vision. By the way, that intro where you see Vision and you see he's having to wear different animal outfits. He looks sadder and sadder every time they show that picture of the intro.
I love it.
But I'll say that when Agnes shows up in her little primo 80s work cardio attire, which by the way, the coloring on it seems like the same coloring as what there's in TV. The
CRT.
Colors, the CRT in the colors in a TV. But that was just my thought. I don't know if I'm just reading into it like everything else. But I love that scene when she comes in and when she's
doing those squats.
Doing the squats while she's rotating those two little baby cribs and, making jokes about being, I'm a tiger in bed, mama. Or when she's like drinking up on the counter, it's like children can't control them. She's
so cute in this series too. Normally she's like very goofy kind of, and they made her really cute in this series.
My favorite line is when she's like, I'm looking for alcohol, not for me, for the kids.
Yeah. I wouldn't drink it while I was watching them.
I wouldn't drink while I'm watching the kids. It's for them. I don't know. The way she delivers lines is perfect. And I was like, what has this woman been in? I want to cast her in something, because I love her so much.
She's great. Remember her from Step Brothers? Like, she was amazing. Yeah, she's been in everything. And I really feel like right now she's at her like peak, because she is such a sharp comedian, and she's just doing such a good job.
She did an interview for like Jimmy Fallon or one of those shows, and she was wearing this dress, and Jimmy Fallon got her to lift her husband. And then when she got up, she was wearing jeans underneath her dress.
Nice.
Anyway,
I love this show too, and I am so glad that this show came out before Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But not to knock it, because we got another trailer for that show during the Super Bowl.
Good one.
It looks really good too, in a totally different way. And I think that's more what I think a larger percentage of the audience may have
Traditional
been,
Marvel.
yeah, may have been expecting. But I don't know. This feels just so unique in almost every way possible, and it but yet it still feels very steeped in the MCU, right? There's all kinds, they mentioned Ultron, they mentioned all these other characters, and then it has the luxury of bringing in, the X-Men characters, and there's hints of all these other characters in there. The last episode we got hints of the Fantastic Four with the cosmic rays. They didn't call them cosmic rays; they called them something else, but it was basically the same concept. The Big Bang rays, and very Fantastic Four kind of hints there. So we're definitely heading toward that direction. There's no doubt about it. And if you're a fan of the comic book universe of the Scarlet Witch and Vision, there are so many things in here that are bringing those various storylines to life all in one. And that's what Marvel's doing really well, is interpreting those storylines for multimedia, right? So I'm really amazed at all the work goes into this. Like you said, Christopher G. Moore, it feels like it's kind of unfathomable how many elements are being brought into this, and it's so exciting and so refreshing and so interesting and so perplexing and so mysterious and so funny, and it's really firing on all cylinders, as they say. I love it. This episode, like you said, if I had done this without watching a second time, I definitely would have been 4.25, 4.5. But seeing it a second time, I'm definitely 4.75. And it's because of, I think some of the imagery is just so fantastic. My favorite scene, there could really be a lot of different scenes. I mean, come on. Vision comes out of, to go get the binkies, and he's got them stuck in his ears. Come on, that's great.
His non-existent ears? Doesn't he not have ears?
You see the little ears close when she pulls them out?
Yeah.
And then they stick
the Vision.
The Vision. And then the babies spit them out. I mean, come on, it's really good. That could easily be my favorite scene. There's just so many. I'm really. I'm going to go with the confrontation with. Maybe is that what you took? You did more like when he did the scroll, right? But after that, they kind of come at each other. They both raise up, and you see Wanda, using her powers a little bit. The red glow around her hands. We've seen it before, but against Vision, and Vision's upset, right? He's not acting totally like himself, and it's such an interesting aspect because he is so lost. He can't remember anything, and he's kind of getting frustrated and angry. And that's not what Vision was, right? Because Vision was very analytical, very opposite of that. So that's really an interesting aspect to this character in this universe. What are they doing here? And we've talked about Wonder Man and the Simon Williams character being a part of it, or at least that aspect of it. So what a great 30 minutes that we spent an hour and 3 minutes talking about. I love it.
Yeah.
And I can't wait for the next Friday and the Friday after that and the Friday after that. This is going to be 4 weeks of fun.
I feel bad for the people that are like, oh, I don't need to watch the Disney Plus MCU stuff. I'll only watch the movies.
Yeah.
Well, cool.
also to tie into your Fantastic Four thing, Rambo does mention at one point, I need to call my aerospace friend.
Mm-hmm.
And on the back of the board, there's a 4 that's written just like the 4.
Oh, is that where they're like, oh, you mean Captain Marvel? And she's like,
no.
Yeah.
Oh no, there's also some kind of beef that she has with Captain Marvel. So
I don't know if it's beef or disappointment, maybe, or
maybe because she wasn't around when her mom got cancer and died.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't know if, but also maybe the aerospace friend is maybe her Skrull friend.
Oh,
Skrull friend. That sounds like a. Who knows? We're gonna find out. Yeah, we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out for sure. All right, we should wrap this up. Let's just hey, thank you all for joining me, Vanessa, Christopher, Slattman. This was so much fun, and I can't wait for next week to talk about the next episode.
Another mystery.
Can't
Thank
wait.
Yes.
I think we're gonna get that classic Scarlet Witch and Vision look.
Oh, we do. We got the Halloween episode.
Let's hope it is. I thought it was going to be this week, but I think we're getting it next week. All right, let's say good night.
Good night.
Good night.